Ladies and gents, welcome back, man. It has been quite a week here in Canada. All kinds of stuff has happened, and it's going to be tough for us to get to all of them. But of course, this is the day of the week that I bring in Marty up north. Marty, thanks again for joining me.
Hey Clyde, how's it going?
It's all right, man. We've had a bit of a roller coaster this week, and there's a lot of things
Well,
to
well,
talk about.
let me tell you this. You know how we do this every Wednesday, and there's been a couple of Wednesdays this summer where I missed because I was gone in the wilderness. It's been one of those weeks now where I wish I was in the wilderness. Like we've gone from, we've used the term that Canada is a dumpster fire. I think I don't know what comes after dumpster fire. I don't know what comes after dumpster fire, but I'll say one thing, and I think it'll lead into the discussion. The other thing I realized this week is we're not a serious country anymore. I don't see the seriousness. I don't see people taking what's going on seriously, especially Trudeau. I mean, Trudeau is not a serious person.
Well, it's funny.
We saw that in India.
It's funny because that started as a meme in America a while ago, years ago. They used to say like Canada's not a real country. Like it was a joke that Canada's a fiction, that Canada doesn't actually exist. But no, Canada's just not a serious country. Nobody takes us seriously when it comes to economics or world power, anything like this, like defending ourselves.
And I don't entirely blame other countries for sort of taking us lightly, because economically, I've said it before, we're about 2 to 3% of the global GDP, so we are a minor contributor. But I felt pride in the years. Canada, let's step back. I mean, some people yes, we were taken seriously. There was an era where Canada punched above its weight class. Remember? I mean, we were sure, we weren't a superpower, but we sent. You could count on us to send people to hotspots as peacekeepers. You could count on us to, do a good showing at the Olympics. You could count on us to lend money to people who needed it. In wartime, we definitely punched above our weight class. But but right now, Trudeau shows up at the G20 summit in India, and he was basically snubbed. I mean, he didn't announce any trade deals. He didn't announce anything. What the hell did he go there for? I mean, he brought his son with him, and there's some crazy theories going around that was he bringing him as sort of a shield so that people wouldn't be extreme, so that other leaders wouldn't be totally critical of him. I don't know.
Do people treat you better when it's take your son to work day? I don't know.
For me, they do, because my son happens to be like 6'2". So when Patrick and Ray are standing over my shoulders, anybody who's mad at Marty calms down quickly. But
fair enough.
Yeah, but let's go back. I was reading. You and I have talked serious topics. We bring up serious topics. So serious topics are inflation, cost of living, things like that. And I was reading the IMF's, the International Monetary Fund puts out a report for next year. It just came out, so I was reading that. And they recognize in the book, in the report, that across the globe there's a inflation, and they talk about the easy way to bring down inflation is to increase the supply of something. So I mean, we have inflation in around the world right now caused by bad monetary policy. It's the fallout of COVID and shit like that. But how do we get it back to normal? And the bank, or International Monetary Fund, is saying we need to increase the supply of a lot of things like energy, oil, gas, minerals, and then that'll bring the pressure down and inflation. And in the report, they're almost begging for Canada to step up, because we are one of those nations that has all those resources. And then you got Trudeau, who goes on the world stage and lectures other world leaders on pride, on gay rights, on trans rights, and on democracy. And that's why he got called out. I mean, the Indian media were ruthless with Trudeau. You did a video on that. I saw it. I mean, the media, they're calling out. They don't want to be lectured. Indians don't want to be lectured.
Well, not to mention that there's in India, they have this group called Khalistanis. They want to establish their own nation. It's a separatist movement, and it's been all but
violent, right? I think violent. They're past protests, right? They're into
That's right.
whatever.
And apparently they've been completely quelled in India, and it was only Pakistan apparently that there was semblances of this group, but now it's largely in Canada. This is what we're hearing now. And apparently last time Trudeau came, he had a Khalistani in his entourage, and that was like an insult to the Indian government. And
Totally.
And well, obviously Jagmeet Singh is an ally with Trudeau as well. So he was denied entry into India because of his ties with the Khalistani movement. So,
well, Jagmeet, you mean? Yeah. Yes. Jagmeet's not allowed to go to India. Yeah. No, he's on their he's on the terrorist watch list. But yeah, let's talk about that. I mean, maybe some people don't remember, but this is Trudeau's second trip to India in about 3 years. Then the last time he went, he brought his whole family, and he made a fool of himself because he was dressing up in quote unquote traditional Indian garb. Sorry,
well, a funny thing that I heard from the Delhi press at the time was that Trudeau was more Bollywood than Bollywood, and they were making fun of him for it.
And then I found it comical, and people said, well, what's so funny about that? He's just being respectful. I'm like, respectful? There's 1,000 cultures in India. Which one do you choose, right?
Exactly.
It'd be like the same as can you imagine if Prime Minister Modi stepped off the plane in Canada, dressed in a lumber jacket with a raccoon hat and some cowboy boots, and is like, howdy? It'd be like, well, he'd appear funny, but it is offensive. Some might say it's funny, but then it's like, what about Quebec? What about others? And if he went one step further and decided to dress as a native, do you do it as a Cree, a Mohawk, an Innu, an Eskimo? What do you do, right? Yeah. So anyway, so Trudeau's not, goes to India, spends 5 days there. And what was announced? Is there a new trade deal? Are we doing anything with India? I mean, it was a boondoggle. He brought his kid. We're not serious. We didn't get to sit at the big boy table with anybody. And then, and now he's back in Canada. Is he back? Is he actually back?
So the papers are telling us that he's back. I haven't seen any footage of him back. And that was a funny twist. And I covered this. Was the rumor mill started happening because they were really hush hush about it. So anytime they're hush hush about something, online goes nuts. They go nuts. And he had his plane was down, but let's not talk about why. And so immediately people started running fake stories about police drug dogs going on CanForce One, and him being busted for having some products or something on there. So it was all over Twitter, and so I did the research, and I couldn't find anything that was substantiated on those claims. But it's funny, right?
It's funny, but it's also sad as a Canadian, and I hope that I think he's hiding. I mean, he's purposely, he'll stay in India as long as possible, and then he'll want to go somewhere else. I mean, he's going to stay away until Parliament resumes. He has nothing positive to step up to in Canada right now. I mean, the Conservatives just had a fantastic convention. So, really? Does he want to step into that? Or, well, how about we step into that? Let's step into
before you get into that, because you're talking about Trudeau and what he's trying to put forward. This is amazing, this tweet that went out today, and I'll share it on the screen. It's just announced, we've reached an agreement with London, Ontario to build more than 2,000 homes in the next 3 years, and thousands or more are in the years to come. This will help people from young families to students to seniors find affordable place to call home. He's only talking about this because the Conservatives have been doing so well in the polls because they've been doing nothing but harping on this one issue. Well, I mean, there are a few other issues, but this is their big main one. The affordability crisis in Canada, the fact that all the red tape was put in place by Liberals over the years, and also the NDP, which is in coalition in government in Canada. And it's not something that the Liberals actually have anything to say that they've done anything about.
Well, it's good to see because, the Liberals, one of their talking points, they love to say this, hey, Pierre, you've been the leader for a year now and we still haven't seen a plan from you. I'd say, well, you guys have been in power for 7 years. We haven't seen a plan from you guys. But now the Liberals are actually stealing ideas from Pierre desperately now, trying to, hey, good for London. I mean, don't get me wrong, right? I mean, if the Liberals could succeed in building houses, do I think the Liberals will build houses? No, I don't think they will. But step in the right direction. They are stealing something right out of Pierre's playbook right now. I mean, I think that was front and center
I just wanted to pause the conversation here really quick just to put this out there. I think this is one of the more important documentaries to see this year. This is Stolen Water Part 2 by Simon Hergott. He's an independent filmmaker who's been going around documenting a lot of the things that have been happening around Canada. And in particular, this one is British Columbian farmers that are being subjugated by the government of Canada, being told that they can't use water that they have on their own land. Now, this isn't water that's coming from the rivers that they're claiming that the water's coming from. These are aquifers, but they're still being shut down nonetheless to save the environment, save the fish, and it's destroying the livelihoods of these farmers. They have no recourse. They show up to the meetings with the government. The government doesn't show. They don't answer any of their emails, and then they send their goons out to enforce these rules on the farmers. If this is happening in British Columbia and you're not hearing about this in the news, where else in Canada is this happening? Probably all over the place. The reason why I think this is so important to showcase, get this out there, share it with everybody, and I think it's important to fund projects like this. This is Simon's. He made a Give, Send, Go recently. I encouraged him to do so because he's not making any money off of this stuff, and he's this back-breaking work to get this out there. So I had him on the show just the other day, an amazing interview with him. I was so awe-inspired that I wanted to share this with all of you, get this information out there as much as possible. So please go watch the documentary, link in the description. If you feel so obliged as I did, get on there and give a donation and help fund his work, because the mainstream media does not want to talk about these issues. They want to avoid it and keep everybody in the dark. This is happening all over Canada, and this is a great opportunity for Simon to get out there and document these events as they're unfolding. So please consider donating today. And well, back to me and Marty talking.
You know, the Conservatives are adopting, I kind of like their motto. I like their theme of this convention, you know, back to basics, back to common sense. I mean, it's a bit cliche because many governments have done it in the past, but unfortunately it's the cycles we go through. You got the liberal ideology that comes in, or the NDP or socialist ideology. And I've always said that ideology eventually meets reality or practicality. And when they clash, practicality wins. And a really important part of practicality and conservative mindset is common sense. So I love that. It's definitely a theme I can get behind of, with the Conservatives.
Well, it actually goes all the way back to Thomas Paine, who wrote the book Common Sense. And that was, before the Revolutionary War in the United States, Englishman who wrote that book.
Did you memorize all this stuff? I mean, I get told I got a photographic memory. Are you cheating? You got a producer. You got a producer in this background right now who's feeding you stuff. I know your tricks.
I've read the book. It's actually a fantastic book. And for all the religious people in the audience that like having stuff that has religious connotation, one of the books in there is or one of the chapters is Judges, and he talks about how to lay the foundation for judgment in society, and he bases a large amount of that on the Jewish people in the book of Judges from the Bible. So it's a really tremendous read, actually, if you get into it. That's one I'd recommend to everybody. But sit down and understand where our system of governance or some of our ideas, the whole idea of 12 men in a jury, that comes from these times and these writings. Such tremendously intelligent people way back then to see where we could go right and could go wrong. And that's why this idea of common sense is such a great...
You're almost leading me into a segue that I don't want to go into right away, but I'll mention it so we come back to it. But, you're talking about foundations that have been around for thousands of years that work. And I've said the same thing. I mean, it's something I say all the time, to the liberals or to the people that say we need a great reset. Bullshit, we need a great reset. A lot of things we have worked. Are they perfect? No. Do we leave people behind once in a while, economically, socially? Yes, we do. But our processes have an amazing foundation and just need to be tweaked to go forward. So great point. I mean, we're and what's old is new again. So common sense, hopefully common sense never goes away. Yeah, it was a great convention. I mean, I didn't go to it, but everybody's talking about it. The Pierre's keynote address was fantastic. His wife Emma's keynote address was
Yes.
fantastic.
I really enjoyed the opener, and I shared it on my live
Yeah.
stream as well as Pierre's speech on my live stream last week. By the way, if anyone's not tuned into one of the live streams, 9:30 Eastern Friday every week, come in, join in, hit the notification bell. It'll remind you when I go live. But these speeches were great. In the first opener, we had two people from the Conservative Party come out and started off with this opener of where they're, just the grand opus essentially of what was going to happen during the convention. And there was a few moments in there that like actually gave me goosebumps, because they came out and they said, a conservative leader needs to come out and stand behind the people, even if, it doesn't matter what's going on, or who they voted for, what have you. And she specifically calls out, if a bunch of people are upset enough that they'll get in their vehicles and they'll drive all the way to Ottawa, we need a prime minister that'll listen to those people. And that really shook me up. I was like, wow.
Well, that shook me up the same way that Danielle Smith's speech on, not at the convention, but on opening night when she got elected. She literally said something along the same lines. Like, not everybody here likes me, but I'm taking an oath to be your premier and to listen to you. So I have these, political tendencies when I get elected personally in life, but once I'm in power and elected, I'm your leader. I represent everyone. And I think Pierre is that guy too. He is one of those guys that imagine the trouble we would have saved. It's another segue that we're not ready to go into, but imagine the trouble we would have saved if Trudeau had just come out of his hiding in Ottawa and met with the truckers. That's all he had to do.
Wow. The world would be Canada would be a much different place right now. In fact, actually, the world would be a much different place, because it was after he defied even speaking to the truckers, and it was so stubborn in the whole thing that and the truckers still with their resolve stayed there in those freezing temperatures. That's what inspired so many people across the globe to stand up against this bullying of their governments.
Absolutely. Whether it was Australia, New Zealand, Holland, places like that, others got inspired to stand up. And it's what he got called out by the Indian media this week, for being a hypocrite. But let's go back to the convention real quick. I hope the Conservatives didn't peak too quickly. I mean, when we look at the polls right now, one of the reasons Trudeau was scared to come back to Canada, I think, is the convention was successful. But regardless of the convention, he's tanking in the polls. And do you have a poll up right now, or did you?
I think I have polling Canada and a lot of the recent polls are visible right now. So it's showing the most recent one from Nanos. I don't know if I trust Nanos polls so much. They seem to have a little bit of a political bent to them, but they're showing 146, and this is seats, to Liberal 122. It's not quite a majority, it's a minority, but it's in the leadership at this point right now, based on this poll.
Those are the ones they think are firm, because that doesn't add up to the 338 seats. But and I agree with you. You can't trust an individual Nanos poll or anybody's individual poll, but in aggregate over time, the Conservatives are building up a lot of momentum right now. Mm-hmm. So much momentum that while Trudeau was gone, he delegated attack roles to Guilbeault and Pablo Rodriguez, so they both crashed the
embarrassingly
crashed the convention in Quebec City. I guess they're both Quebec MPs, so they could sort of argue that they were in a neighborhood, but it definitely looked like they were crashing, and they're just getting drowned out by people criticizing them, and then the coordinated attacks by the Liberals got hilarious. Resulting, I think, in the most ridiculous thing of all, which is when they, the Liberal, not just Liberal MPs, but the Liberal machine started attacking Pierre for standing up on a WestJet flight and speaking for 45 seconds.
which is hilarious, because I even saw there's a CBC article today out about it. It says the union representing the WestJet captain crew is demanding an apology from the airline after conservative leader Pierre Poilievre made a brief campaign-style speech on the public. Okay, and this is on a charter flight with delegates. This is full of delegates from the convention.
It's on a charter flight. It's cute, you know, and it's not. I mean, sure, the video came under Pierre's name, but when are people going to learn that the internet's forever, man? Because immediately after people started complaining about that, the most famous, and in Canada, I mean, you know, a lot of Canadians know her, but Jan Arden, you know, who's a staunch liberal singer or whatever from out west.
You know, I know the name,
like,
and I had a hard time even like thinking of a song that she's ever written.
Insensitive, I think isn't her song Insensitive or something like that? You'll have to use her in the opening intro one day.
Well, she's obviously she's gotten over that. She's too sensitive at this point.
She had some good causes. Okay, I don't want to talk about Jan too long, but Jan does have a couple of good causes. But she's over the top. But anyways, she tried to invoke the cancel culture and you know, hey, WestJet, I'll never fly with you, and then she just got bombarded. I mean, the video of Omar Al-Habra on a Via train talking on the PA, the video of Trudeau on a Calgary or on a Toronto Transit, a TTC subway talking made it, and others. So, well, and in the case of
the best comment I heard was, I haven't heard a politician speaking on an airplane since Trudeau admitted that he has worn blackface more times than he can remember. Because that was on an airplane.
Oh my God. Yeah. So get offended by other things, folks. There's worse things to get offended by. You know, if the worst thing that happens is your prime minister or your future prime minister or an MP with some popularity makes a joke on an airplane, give it up. Like, you know,
honestly,
I'm glad. I think anyways, it just shows the desperation of the liberals.
So one thing that was great at the Conservative Convention, again, with going back to that introduction speech, so they mentioned the Freedom Convoy, you know, quite directly with that. There was a standing ovation after that, but they came right out of the gates. And I made a video saying, like, did they grow a pair? Is this the Conservative Party plus balls? Like, is this where we're at now? Because they came out at the gate swinging, saying that we are in a warfare against a woke movement in Canada that's destroying Canada. And I couldn't agree more. We are definitely having an ideological battle at the moment, and Canada's politics are at the forefront of, and I'm talking geopolitical, like the globe. What happens in Canada could shape what happens in other countries going forward.
And that's what I meant at the opening of our segment when I said Canada's not a serious country right now, with high inflation, high interest rates, unaffordable housing, crime waves. I posted on crime today. I missed that one. We'll talk about crime next week, and gun crime in particular. But, you know, we have these real issues. And yes, the liberals are focused on trans rights, and you got, you know, for this one's way out there, but there, you know, there's one school council in particular, or is it called school? Yeah, it's a school council. The school council in Ottawa elected a crazy lady with this
board of
crazy
trustee, I think is what it's called.
Board of trustees. Yeah, I call them councils, but you know, the ones responsible for setting policy for the school, and they got a nut job. You know, I only know her as Niels. Everybody says Dr. Niels, but she's still wearing a mask. She's paranoid. She doesn't want anyone near her, and then you know, it's getting media attention, and I'm like, again, the country's not serious. Like, half the country is the mainstream media is focused on the crazy conflict at a school board. Meanwhile, like I just said, you know, Stats Canada releases their statistics for gun crime, and gun crime is just almost on an exponential growth curve in Canada. So we're not serious, and the liberals are not serious. But they're you know, we saw desperate moves. I mean, they're doing a few changes. They changed their logo. I mean, the liberals had that red logo with the L, and then they changed. Man, how'd you read my mind on all this stuff today? I guess we're doing a weekend review, so it's pretty easy to.
Yeah, I've got your tweet right here. I'll be watching the Liberal account more closely going forward. I wonder how many groups will be highlighted with their own colors on their logos. And this is interesting because it was right after the Conservative Convention where they said, hey, there's a woke movement, and the crowd erupted in applause. and we're like,
Yeah.
it's trying to destroy Canada. And what happens only days later? The Liberal Party,
Boom.
and it's so weird because like, it used to be Pride Day, then it was Pride Week, and then it was Pride Month, and we all knew that June was supposed to be Pride Month, and then it went the entire summer, all the way until September 11th, and that's
Calgary just had their Pride Parade last week, and now I think they did it on purpose. They're trying to sort of hide it and bring it, make it more low key. Yeah.
So it's becoming this
that's
all the time event. But
yeah.
now,
That's evidence that the Liberals they're hearing some things, but they're still talking out of both sides of their mouth. I mean, yeah, the Liberals will do the small changes like this, but on the other hand, they'll still talk about this extensively. And I had you and me. It's not. I actually had a tweet sort of against the trans movement. The reason I did that tweet is because I do support the 20 million or the million person march that's coming up on September 20th. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to promote that. And I made a tweet, and the tweet I made actually, it was a pretty clever tweet. I was actually happy about that one. It got some serious engagement, but I disengaged from it because it brings out some really ugly people and you get attacked. And so having a reasonable discussion when it comes to trans movements, like if you and I wanted to, meet somebody and want to have an honest discussion, it's very hard with people to have an honest discussion. So
I agree.
It's a topic I'm uncomfortable with, but let's end that topic with a little bit of humor. Did you see Jagmeet Singh's tweet where he referred to the trans community as trans Canadians?
I didn't see that.
So I had to
trans
be clever.
Canadian.
So did it.
What constitutes a trans Canadian?
That's what I was like. What is it? Is it a Newfoundlander living in BC, or is it somebody who formerly worked for Trans Canada Pipelines, or what's a trans Canadian, Jagmeet? Like it's
Is that like someone who's not Canadian, doesn't even live in Canada, but identifies as a Canadian?
An illegal immigrant, for as far as I'm concerned, is a trans Canadian until he becomes a Canadian. I don't know. Is
that like the cocoon stage? I don't know.
yeah. So I'll just plug the million person march September 20th, and then hopefully people can show up.
Well, I do want to highlight your tweet because it was actually a good statement, because it was based on it was in regards to this guy Andre Picard, who did he write an article for the Star?
He didn't write. He was paraphrasing somebody else's article, but I got on him for the fact that if you're going to paraphrase, you should use quotation marks, because if you're not using so he says it's a privilege, not a right, to know your kid's gender identity, and that's the one I focused on, because I'm like, as a parent, that makes me crazy. So I said, and this is one of the ways this is an example of critical thinking. Change a word in a sentence and see if it still makes sense.
Yeah,
so he says
Socratic method. That's how Socrates came up with his method.
So I'm like,
logic.
So by extension, it's a privilege, not a right, to know your kid's medical history. It's a privilege, not a right, to know your kid's drug habits and things like that. I'm like, none of those things make sense. But you're right. You're singling out. So people single out gender as one privilege that a parent doesn't have. I'm like, no. I'm either a parent with rights and responsibilities, and now you want to define what those rights and responsibilities are. And then another argument people said is, well, maybe we should define what constitutes whatever an adult. I'm like, fine, let's have we can have those arguments, but not start picking and choosing when my rights as a parent apply and don't.
Yeah. And that's the whole point of this march, and this is why so many people are going down. I'm going down to Vancouver. I'm gonna check it out in Vancouver and show my face and make sure I'm filling up that crowd of people that care for parental rights. I think there's been a real attack on parental rights in Canada when it comes to Quebec eliminating the supremacy of the parent in that province. That's terrifying. That's absolutely terrifying. The fact that the government can come in and say, well, no, we think we know better what's for your children, and that's not right.
No, and I'm with you. That's why I'm going. I'm going there not as a protector of not for or against trans right. I'm going there generally as a parent and the rights of a parent. So, that's why I'm going there.
Yeah.
And I perhaps, I mean, we could talk one last topic, and we're probably running out of time, but removing rights, you know, it always keeps coming up. And, you know, I made a joke that a couple of weeks ago, I was hearing all this rumors about masks and mandates coming back up. And I made my meme of like, I won't comply. And then suddenly it disappeared off the radar, and I deleted that meme, and I rechanged my profile back to, you know, Alberta Strong and Free. And then boom, I get to Dr. Tam speaking. I'm like, oh my God, do I have to go back down this path? Like,
that's the thing. So Alex Jones a couple of weeks ago made this prediction. It was almost a month ago. He made a prediction. He said that a TSA insider said that they're going to ramp up all this COVID stuff again. We're going to be wearing masks on planes, where the mandates are going to be brought right back in, and it's all going to start in Canada. He says that it's all going to come out of Canada, and that's where the origin is. And it's like, how do you plan these things? How do you, if this comes true, then that's conspiracy fact at that point. We've gone beyond Alex Jones just being right, you know, sometimes maybe by happenstance. Like, he predicted this one down to he said the middle of September it'll start.
Yeah, no, he's bang on. And like I said, I was like blowing it off 2 weeks ago. And then today I was like, holy shit. Yeah. You know, man, you guys are going to turn me into real conspiracists, Alex, I'm coming on your show, man. Like, you know, I'm converted. But yeah, you know, there was so much wrong with that whole thing though. You know, Tam, I mean, you know, when they scale back, the room is empty. There's 2-3 people and they're wearing the masks. So yeah, you know, I roll that into the woke crowd. Like, we gotta send a clear message right now. I said it a couple of weeks ago, and we got to say it loud and clear and repeat it. That you will not comply. I will not comply. They need to hear us say that. They're testing the waters right now, because this is all that looked like, because there's no evidence. I mean, I'm still deep in the evidence, and there's no increasing. You know, I don't hear the sirens in the background with people dying all over the place, and I don't see the data, and I don't see anything. They're mentioning, you know, she's mentioning, whatever, Omicron B639-8. I'm like, you know what? You've run out of Greek letters. Okay, the scam is up. You know,
it's
like,
a joke
this,
at this
this is
point.
not like hurricanes, where maybe let's do like hurricanes. Maybe we'll just start at A again. So the first instead of Greek letters, let's do what can we do with this one? Let's do birds. So this is the first variant. Let's name the next variant after. No, let's do bats. This is the fruit bat version. Yeah, I'm getting silly now.
No, it's silly, and that's the thing. It is silly. It's the more ridiculous it is, but there's nothing more loud and clear than wearing a "Do Not Comply" shirt. This is from the Clyde Do Something merch shop. Check it out. You guys wanted merchandise, so I put it together, and it's out there for you guys. So if you want to wear this going out, telling people as they're wearing their masks, and you're breathing clear and fresh and fine at the supermarket, wearing your "Do Not Comply" shirt, and they're sitting there choking on their compliance.
Just don't print it on the mask. Wouldn't that just be funny? See somebody with a mask that says "Do Not Comply."
That would be ironic, for sure.
Yeah.
But no, this has been the week in Canada this week, and it's the gift that keeps on giving, if you consider it a gift. But
let's. I know you want. We're running out of time. One super quick last topic. We barely touched on Tamara and Chris's trial, and I think we need to do them, you know, out of respect. I think we said it. It's a turning point in Canadian history, the trucking convoy, and we still have 2 people that are paying a dear price for it. Mm-hmm. But last week I wanted to go. I'm kind of glad I didn't go now, because it looks like it's a gong show. You know, the judge basically said that I think her words were like, "You're close to off the rail with this one." So it's been, you know, a trial in Canada is actually, in most countries, is a very organized process. I mean, on day one, you know, the judge says, "Okay, here's the case before me. Somebody is accused of mischief. You are the prosecutor. How do you plan on proving your case?" So the prosecutor has to say, "I'm going to prove it by this method. I'm going to show that something happened." And then the defense goes, "Okay, now that I know that, I have the right to defend based on that strategy." We're still, it's like the judges can't figure out how they're going to prove the charges of mischief, and the charge of inciting mischief, and what's the other one? There's 3 charges, and they seem unable to prove them because
mischief. That was one of them.
Yeah,
it's so ridiculous.
They picked weird charges, hoping. I'm sure that at this point they were hoping that they were going to charge them, that they were going to pay, do their 200 community hours, send a scary message to protesters. They never thought it would go this far, and it's obvious that the Crown is.
They probably thought they were going to plead out, so you could plead out of these things and get off of it. And this is the speculation from a lot of people in the legal world, is to say that, you know, this is a new type of warfare called lawfare, where they actually use the process itself as the punishment. They drag it out, and you have your bail, and then they come at you with the bail conditions, and then they pull you back into prison or pull you back into jail from all the way across the country, as they did to Tamara Leach. And like, this is just ridiculous. It's gone on for over
Clyde,
a year and a half.
The government does that to us, as you know, it is an example of an erosion of a right. You have the right to a quick and efficient trial, and that's eroded. That's a loss of a right. But they do it to us in minor ways. You know, I've like, you know, I get my tax assessment and I want to appeal my taxes. Well, you can't just call anymore and say, you know, I'm not happy with my tax assessment. I'm talking municipal. Then they say, well, file an appeal. It's like, holy shit, file an appeal. It's just like you described. The process is so complicated. You almost have to hire a lawyer, and you go, am I going to spend $300 on a lawyer to try and reduce my tax assessment by $60? So the process is punishment.
It is.
And then if you do launch the appeal, they're just going to make a note. Oh, he won the appeal, but we'll get him next year. Like, it's sad. So anyways, I think I'm still trying to figure out, maybe perhaps the Crown does want to lose this one, or have it filed as a mistrial or something. I don't know.
They can't afford, politically, they can't afford to put either of them in jail over this. No,
absolutely
they don't want a martyr on their hands with the you know, the government in the lowest popularity that it's ever seen in 8 years, on its way out essentially, and just trying to survive the last few years of their governance. They can't afford that. They don't want that.
No. Can you imagine Trudeau go back to India and lecturing the Indians on human rights? He'd be roasted for this one. But, you know, political prisoners in Canada. So, anyways, we're ending it on a high note. If you're bored, Chris and Tamara, and you're watching some of our videos, you should be watching them not because you're bored. You should be watching them because they're insightful and we're entertaining. But we're definitely cheering you guys on. You're taking one on the chin on behalf of millions of Canadians, and we absolutely appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I do know for a fact Tamara watches our videos, because she comments. She doesn't comment in the thing because she's not allowed to, but she'll text me. Yeah. She'll text me sometimes, and just so people know, I have been texting with her, and she's in good spirits. She's in great spirits. I said, Canada's behind you on this. We're all rooting for you, and yeah, I don't think they're worried at all.
Good. Awesome.
Well, that's a great note to leave it on. Marty, where can everybody find you?
Marty Up North on Twitter, and Marty Up North on YouTube.
Absolutely. Links, as always, in the description down below. Go check it out, and we'll see you in the next one. Yeah. Keep on checking.
Cheers, everyone.